February 24th. We will start with roll call.
Thank you. I'll take roll call. Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, great. We will start with general public comment. This is for any item not on the agenda today.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I don't currently have any public speaker slips, but if somebody in the room would like to speak on general public comment, they can fill one out and bring one up to me. But I'm not seeing any movement. We don't currently have any attendance online, and we did not receive any written correspondence for general public comment. So I'll give it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from the full board meeting on February 10th. I looked over these. They're very straightforward and simple. I didn't have any revisions. Okay, then I'll move to approve the minutes from the full board meeting on February 10th.
I'll second that.
Okay, next is, roll
We're
call.
going to take the vote. Okay. Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
And Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, next is approval of the minutes from the consent meeting on February 3rd. That was mine, which I looked over, and they look good. So I'll move to approve those minutes for February 3rd.
Second.
I will take the vote. Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
And Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next is approval of the minutes from the consent meeting on February 10th. I believe that was Board Member Sherry. Yep,
I just
there we
want to
go.
look at them really quickly again. Okay. And then go down to, I think that might be it. Was that just, I think there was just, oh no, there was another one. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the consent meeting of February 10th.
Second?
Thank you. I'll take the vote. Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, next is ratification of the action taken on the consent calendar on February 24th.
Sure. So the last consent hearing items were posted on today's full board agenda. So I'm just going to be heading to that now. We did not have a hearing last Monday, so we only have the 24th. Item 1, 1839 East Las Tunas Road, was granted project design approval and final approval as submitted. Item 2, 3215 Campanile Drive, was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer for a return to SFDB consent. And item 3 was 19 Canyon Acres Drive, and was continued indefinitely to SFDB consent. And that's all.
And that was me on consent today, and that is correct.
Correct.
Okay, then
I'll
I'll,
make a motion to ratify the minutes from today's consent meeting.
okay, to ratify the actions taken.
Actions, sorry,
All right, That's
actions.
okay. I'll second.
Okay, I'll take the vote. Board Member Mosley.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
And Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Next is announcements and future agenda items, appeals.
I have no announcements to make.
Okay.
Thank you.
The only other one I'll add is that we're starting the recruitment process. So we have one board member who will be stepping, or their term has ended. Correct?
At least two of us, I think.
Okay, okay. Two. One may be wanting to continue. So we will definitely have at least one opening. Oh, you both are?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Great, never mind. Well, anyway, the
They can
recruitment
still
process
apply.
is still open.
Yeah, they can still apply.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, with any other announcements? No, okay.
Yeah, and there are no subcommittee reports to report.
Great. Okay. Our first item is a new item for concept review. 1317 Los Alamos. Proposal to construct a new two-story, 2,818 square foot single-unit residence, including a second-floor deck and roof deck, an attached 469 square foot two-car garage, a 733 square foot two-bedroom detached ADU, with one uncovered required parking space. The ADU is exempt from SFDB purview. Project also includes landscape and hardscape improvements. The proposed total of 4,020 square feet of development on a 12,176 square foot lot is 100% of the required maximum Florida lot area ratio. Without the ADU, the FAR is 82%. Review and approval of a coastal development permit for the ADU is required by the staff hearing officer. A ministerial coastal exclusion is required for the primary residence, garage, and all other site work. So welcome. Are there staff comments, additional comments?
No additional comments. I just want to summarize because this is a unique project. So the accessory dwelling unit requires a coastal development permit because it's in the coastal zone, but the main residence, which is subject to design review today, it's a ministerial coastal development permit.
Mm-hmm.
So this project doesn't require any continuance to a staff hearing officer since the ADU isn't under design review purview, but the main residence is. So after you provide general public comment, again, this is just for conceptual review, so very broad comments looking to see for the project fits or any issues with mass, bulk, or scale or anything like that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. You'll have 15 minutes. If you can make sure your microphones are on and both state your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. My name is Liz Hughes with Tom Oxner Architect, and we also have the landscape architect here as well.
I'm Robert Richards.
Okay. I'll begin the presentation. Before I get into the design of the proposed residence, I want to kind of skip forward a little bit to the context of the neighborhood and the lot itself. Actually, I want to go to the next sheet because this kind of gives us a little bit broader of a context here. The site itself is kind of on the corner of, it's not really a cul-de-sac, but kind of a half cul-de-sac here. And the back of the property is bordering on the rear side of the residences along Shoreline Drive. So this particular project takes into consideration capturing some of the possible views of the ocean from this property. And then a lot of the residences along Shoreline Drive are also two-story residences, so trying to get a bit of a view over those as well. These are the street views around the proposed lot, which is here at the corner, 1317. And then you can see a lot of the residences in this neighborhood are kind of the original development from the 50s and 60s. So not too much new development in this specific area, but more so along the backside along Shoreline Drive. This is the proposed streetscape showing the residents along with the bordering by the two street trees and then the neighboring properties. Again, some aerial views of the site. I do want to kind of point out some features of the site as well. One thing is that it's kind of divided into two levels with a steep slope in between them. So the top portion of the property is relatively flat, and then it slopes down to a lower portion of the property, which is also very flat, with a slope kind of in the middle dividing the two parts of it. On the upper area where the current residence is, we're proposing the new two-story residence, and then in the lower flat area was a good location for a detached ADU. Some other features of the neighboring properties, you can see there's a lot of dense planting along the shoreline side, in between the back of the properties there. And then there's also a lot of dense planting along the easterly side as well. Oh yeah, and that's a few more images. You can kind of see that planting a little bit better in some of these. This is our FAR study of the neighborhood. A lot of the properties that are close to this, that are larger in size, are along the shoreline side. Not as many in the neighborhood, the next door neighborhood, but a lot kind of behind on the shoreline side. Our demolition plan, and then I'm going to get into the proposed site design here. We're leaving the garage, or actually the garage is moving in location to the other side of the site. And actually we're also rotating it to be parallel with the property line here. You can see how the existing building is set back pretty far from the front property line there as well. And then the proposed design, there's only a small portion of it that kind of sticks out a little bit closer as we become perpendicular to that side property line there, but the rest of it is pushed back a little bit further. Along the, I guess it's kind of like southwesterly line here. We're actually providing some parking for the ADU, so that allows us to kind of pull that massing away from the neighboring residents as well along that side. And then this small dashed line that you can kind of see here indicates where the second story footprint is. So along our northerly property line, pulling away quite a bit from the neighboring property for the solar access. And then down on the bottom here, you can see that proposed ADU on the lower side of that kind of little embankment there. And then some stairs kind of heading down there. So, oh, and then here's a 3D view of what we're proposing. One thing that the owners wanted to do was take advantage as much as they could to get a little peek of the ocean here. So there is a second story deck as well as a roof deck. And we took great consideration in how we located these on the second story to maintain privacy for the neighbors, kind of setting it in the middle of the mass so that the roofs on either side are kind of obstructing the view towards the neighbors where privacy might be a concern, and kind of directing that view out toward the ocean instead. First floor plan, kind of an open floor plan here that leads out to a covered terrace on the first floor. And then the second floor, let me zoom out a little bit here. So along this side, we're set back about 15 to 16 feet to the southwesterly property line. And along this side, I think it's about 16 or 17 feet as well. The edge of the deck here is also about 16 feet from that property line. So trying to pull away as much as we can from the adjacent parcels and kind of focus that deck space towards the middle of the property. Then the roof plan here as well. What we did on the front elevation, which I'll get to next, was to try to conceal this roof deck mass as much as we could by having a roof on the view, like the view from the front yard here. That way you're not seeing a lot of railing there. It's just kind of a little hint of railing. And then the area where you really want to have a view, more of an open railing on the backside. And then our ADU plan, which I'll skip over for now. This is the view of the front of the house. So the entry and the stairwell kind of in the middle, and then that railing, which is concealed behind. And I think when we take a look at those 3D views, you can tell it's a little bit even further tucked back. So trying to make that, as little visibility as possible of that element, and kind of trying to blend in with the architecture here. So the back side of the house, which is where we're primarily focusing putting larger openings, kind of viewing out onto the property's own yard, and then views out towards the ocean on the second floor. So a little bit larger openings on that level. Then on the side elevations, keeping the second floor openings as small as possible. We have 2x4 windows along that area. And then as well as along the, I guess this is the easterly side here. And then we do have one larger window, which is at the bathroom over the top there. But I think privacy is maybe more of a concern for the building occupants than it might be for the neighbors, because it is pulled away from that property line there as well. Some details here. Oh, and then you were able to add the landscape plan to the set as well. So let's let Robert kind of talk about this landscape plan a little bit.
Okay, so. Yeah, so there's pretty good existing screening around this entire property. And it ranges from like 8 to 12-foot high hedges that are on the neighboring properties, and there's existing fencing around the entire thing. So I was trying to get in there and study ways of fitting in some meaningful planting. So we were able to carve in the front, like in the parking area in the driveway, 2 spots for trees to help soften, the view from Los Alamos there. And the driveway is a permeable paver driveway, and then you come into the main entry of the home there, and we're introducing some flagstone with a small water feature. And as you saw in the renderings, the entry of the house is kind of focused with some tropical palm tree, like I guess it's a hint of like a tropical landscape, but with drought-tolerant species. So you got a permeable paver driveway, and then as you come around the back side of the house, we're introducing flagstone as kind of the primary patio spaces. And then as you can see down there on the south side, as you kind of come around towards the ADU, we've got a stone stepway that takes you down to the level of the ADU, and it's like a 2-to-1 slope that comes down between the level of the residence and the ADU, and we've got a boulder wall. Or I guess it's not a boulder wall, it'd be like a veneered stone wall. Maybe you could go down one sheet there, please. So this kind of gives a better idea of the materials we're using. Just trying to get like a permeable paver driveway that matches flagstone colors. And then there's some ideas of the planting on the bottom. So we introduced a few canopy trees, some palm trees. There's an area for some fruit trees that's there along the stepway. Excuse me. And then kind of broke up the planting into what is like perimeter planting around the driveway. Then maybe zoom down just a little bit, please. Then B there is kind of like the tropical and lush plantings in around the entry. And then I've got like slope transition plantings between the ADU and the residence. Then maybe go to the bottom here, please. So this is the removals. So there's a bunch of like outgrown yuccas and kind of hedge material that's between the lower level and the upper level, and we're trying to open it up so that you can get views out of the main house and kind of see between the 2 levels. So no like meaningful trees or anything that have to come out.
Mm-hmm. And then before we move on, I'm just going to zoom back up to the 3D views so we can take a look at that. So the idea was to really set back any of the 2-story volumes from the street to kind of soften that impact, as well as bringing in some, as Robert described, some maybe some taller landscaping to kind of soften that 2-story mass, as well as having some opportunities kind of along the right side here to have some 2 larger trees to also kind of soften that transition there as well and help it blend in with the neighborhood.
Yeah, and maybe I think it's good to point out too that you can see in that photo number 4, there's a really large, I think it's a Canary Island pine tree that kind of like looms over onto, the subject property here. And so there's a lot of good screening around the edges of this property. So we're trying to fit in, trees where it fits.
And that concludes our presentation.
All right, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. Are you going to speak on this? We have
Thank you. I am a neighbor of the subject property directly behind and abutting their property. And the size, the scope, and of this project, it's monumental. When you look at the lot, it's true that they have a significant downgrade, but if something isn't done, then any kind of water is going to be running into my property. And I'd like assurance that somehow they're going to tap into a sewer line and that they have a specific drain plan. The other problem is there are no Spanish-style homes in the area. There's no red tile roofs, and there's no monumentally large homes on Los Alamos. Shoreline is a special street in our community, and there are many large homes in that area facing. The other concern that I have is I understand the ADU is not under your purview, but they have chosen to put it 4 feet from my property line. My bedroom is directly behind the ADU. The other problem is that the top lot sits on a very high elevation compared to the lower lot. So I'm going to look out and see nothing but 2 houses, basically, which I would like to have the view, a little bit of the view of just the wood fence without their buildings. The density is hard. I understand that your board is tasked to make design and compatibility findings, and we can all agree that it's a lovely design as submitted, but it's not compatible with the neighborhood. And I thank you for your public service.
Thank you. Could you state your name and your address for the record?
Dodie Galloway, 105 San Nicolas.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't currently have any other speaker slips for this item, and we do not have any online attendance. We'll acknowledge that we did receive written correspondence from Dodie Galloway as well. With that, I'll give it back to you.
All right, thank you. We will start with questions from the board. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Can you go back to the front rendering, the front elevation rendering? And I just want to confirm and make sure it's not an optical illusion that the front gable is weighted, the wall is more significant on the right-hand side, and that gable has a split pitch? That one, yeah, it looks...
I don't think so. Let me go
Just
to the
looks
elevation view there. I think it's going to be easier to see. I know that perspective. It's because it's at an angle that they're not in the same plane, that it probably might look that way.
Okay,
But it's
yeah.
a standard
So,
gable
and
end.
that's an arched window, okay. Go back to the front rendering again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I think it was a distortion from the camera view. And I had, this is a question for Robert. What is the landscaping? Oh, I can see it there in the foreground. If that's foxtail agave right next to the tree to the right of the garage, is that what that is?
I think this was just conceptual,
Oh,
so.
okay.
There's
So there was a tree there, I think, that you have planted, but what's the other planting that's in that planter to the right of the driveway?
to the right of the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 2, are you talking?
Let me go
Yeah,
down to the
As you
landscape
enter.
plan.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 trees that I'm proposing to get in there on the.
To the right of the driveway as you enter, there's
And
a
then it
planter
looks-
with a tree.
Yeah, so it looks like B is the
Yeah,
proposed
so-
grouping.
Yeah, so it'd be a group of those plants, and then also I'm trying to get in 2 canopy trees.
Got
So,
it, okay.
The planting hasn't been refined yet, it's just kind
Got
of
it.
some
Thank you.
ideas of plant
No more
material.
questions.
Can you cover the heights from the top of the ridge lines?
Yeah, actually, and that it does kind of bring up a point here. We've kept the first floor ceiling at about 9 feet, and then the second floor plate height is 8 feet. So the top of the ridge is about 23 feet. So definitely trying to keep it under the, what we strive for when we come up with, as we develop the design, is kind of keeping the FAR for the main residence below 85%, keeping the top of the roof, at the highest location under 25 feet or so, but usually ends up being a little bit less than that. So right now, this is 22.3 to the finished floor level, but then as grade drops down a little bit, it's closer to 23 feet.
Okay, helpful. And then can you just cover what the, I guess we don't have the floor plan of the neighbor on the side of the garage. I don't know which elevation that is, but I'm just curious what that is abutting on the other side.
Oh,
Sorry.
on the
Okay,
other side,
cool.
yeah, sure.
And
Let me
Okay.
see if I can
Is
find.
that what you meant though? The drawing
Yeah,
she was
that's
just
what I
on?
meant.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can go back to
So
that drawing.
let me see. Number 3 is going to show a front view of that neighboring property there.
Okay. It looks like it might be the
Yeah.
backyard. And then can you go to the elevation of that side as well, just so I can look up to see the windows and the,
Of which, this side elevation of the
Sorry, I don't
proposed.
know what
North
side that is.
elevation.
Yes.
North.
So actually, that one only has 2 windows along the second story. One, I'll just point them out here in the plan while we're passing
Yep.
through. There's a smaller window coming off of the master bedroom, and then a little bit larger of a window at the master bathroom tub.
Okay. And then I saw podocarpus hedges on both neighbors, or I guess both sides of the property, but it looked like it was on the neighbor side. Are those actually proposed
No,
on this property? It was a little confusing, the landscape.
no, those are existing.
They're
on the-
existing,
On
so-
the other neighbor's property.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw on both neighbors, it looked like there was or podocarpus hedges, so.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
There's like a mass of podocarpus
Okay.
around this property. And then on this, what would it be, on the south property line, it's like a mix of palm trees, and there's really dense planting all the way around the thing.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
All right, Board Member Mosley, any questions?
Thank you so much for your presentation. I was wondering that if you have reached to the other neighbors, their addresses are 109 San Nicolas and 116 Alamos Street. Have you guys talked with them about the project? No?
No, we haven't.
Okay. And one question about the project, can you go to that axonometric view that shows the railing of the roof deck? Thank you, this one. Seems like the railing of the stairs and towards the south is different from the part that it's like you guys are trying to like lower the height of the wall. Was it like a design purpose intention to do so? Because it's looking from the street view, especially because of the angle, it's looking a little bit more contemporary on top of a Spanish style. So was it the intention to do that?
To
Have the horizontal bars, like transition from verticals to horizontal, different styles?
no, I think the idea was just to try and make the railing as minimal as possible, to make it the least noticeable as possible. But I think the design of the railing could be changed if that helps with how it blends in with the front design of the building.
I think that was my questions. Leave that for
Board Member
comments.
Richards?
Yeah, you mentioned that there was a fence that wraps the property. Can you give me the height and materiality of that fence and where it exists?
Yeah, so the existing fencing is a mix of chain and wood fencing, but it's primarily wood fencing. I think there's a little bit of chain link fencing down on the bottom, be like on the southeast kind of corner there, but it's mostly 6-foot-high wood fence around all the sides, except for, I believe, on the south property line there. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. I think we'll move. Well, I guess one is, did you look at any of the other third-story decks as a part of this, like in the neighborhood, and what you might see from the street for those?
You mean other decks that are in existence right now, or no, we did not?
Okay. All right, we'll start with comments. We'll start back over here with Board Member Sherry.
I have a couple comments. So I think the challenge with this lot is it's 2 levels, and because your house is under 85% FAR, you're front loading it to the street quite a bit, and that exacerbates the massing. I wish that if you could just turn to the front elevation again that I was referring to before, that the right-hand side is a 2-story mass, and then you have the garage and it's that 2-story mass along the front that I think is what's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think the design is really nice. I just wish that the second story was set back a little bit more, because of the pie-shaped lot, there's so little frontage that's being, that there's a lot of 2-story massing that's just right up against the street. And another thing that's not helping is that you have a lot of hardscape, which is why I asked for what the planting was, because it seems like the whole front of the property is, because you're moving the driveway east instead of where it is right now on the west. And right now, there's a yard in front of the house. And so there's just one driveway that you back out onto. But now the entire front of the property is hardscape. And so it's kind of dominating. The driveway and the 2-story mass facing the street is kind of dominating this. And I'm not sure what you can do about that, but it's a lot of mass. I know that you're technically under the FAR, and it helps that the ADU is down below on the lower portion, because it's really a separate lot for all intents and purposes. But so that's one thing, and then the roof deck, having it stick up like that, I'm not opposed to roof decks. I'm not sure that it's, I wish there was a more sensitive way to incorporate it into the massing so you wouldn't see it as a roof deck. And to me, it's not helping the architecture. It looks like it was put there because it was the only way to fit a roof deck, and it doesn't look in keeping with the Spanish colonial style. So
Yeah, oh, actually,
yeah,
Sherry, thanks.
that's it. Those are my comments.
Okay, I will continue then. Overall, I do think it's a great project and would be a huge improvement from what's there today. And I recognize it's a really unique neighborhood, and even Spanish style I'm supportive of. It's a very eclectic neighborhood, and I think we're seeing all kinds of styles proposed, new and historically. I appreciate the heights. I think being at 23 feet or a little under around there, I think is really reasonable. I like a lot of the design. I agree that it's such a unique lot because it is a larger lot for the Mesa, and that's why, you can get away with a higher FAR or being able to stay under the 85% without the ADU. But I agree with Vice Chair Sherry in the sense that the way it's concentrated, and I think part of it is just some of the elevations and renderings, it's presenting so massive to the street. It's hard to kind of visualize how that would look in the neighborhood right now. And so I am trying to think of ways that you could soften that. Part of it probably is just reorienting some of the second story, and some of it maybe landscaping. Trying to think if there's anything else I would add. I think I'm neutral on the roof deck. I agree that it could probably be incorporated more into the house and into the architecture, but I'm generally supportive of it and appreciate the way you've cited the decks and all of that.
Board Member Mosley?
I appreciate the project. I think it's really good that we're seeing it early on, as it's a specific site with the geometry, how it sits with the property lines. If you go to your site plan that has the dash line of the existing plan, yeah, this one. So I think following up with Board Member Sherry's comment, the way that this masses, like from the car, the garage, and the mass that it continues, and the other side of the site, the length of these from like northeast to southwest, when it comes to like the 3D, when we're looking at it, the length of this masses, it's making it in an angled position. It's making it looking larger than it is, and how we grasp it from the street view. So that's like making the job of the architect really harder. I understand that. And about the roof decking, I think like as the project goes forward, you guys might study the railing a little bit more and the way that that roof pitch that you have from the street view with the railing behind it. It tries to hide it, but it's not doing its job, and it's just like, it becomes like a fake roof in front of it. So I'm not gonna say what to do at all. Like, I'm just leaving it to you guys, but I think there are ways that can be incorporated. Maybe the height of the room that it's under the roof deck goes down a little bit. That helps to hide that. That's an architectural solution. And I would encourage to connect to the neighbors at 105 San Nicolas and 116 Los Alamos early on, so that we do the good neighbor guidelines from now, and with their feedbacks, the project can go forward, really looking at the neighbors to your sides, because the location of the site and the angle of the site, making it really specific views to the neighbors. And we're not seeing exactly a cross-section that it's showing how it relates to the neighbor to the north or south or to the west, I think. So that's hard to understand, how are the existing heights of their existing homes to the new project. So that would be really helpful to see a cross-section of the existing building with the neighbors and a proposed.
Can I ask for that one? Will you go to your proposed streetscape on T1.5? As we get into deliverables, I want us to get clear about what we'd like to see versus what's already provided, and if we think a section will be most helpful, or altering or adjusting
I think
this
they don't
view,
have a
or-
view that it's exactly the same view with the existing. It's like a
show
little bit.
this same view with existing and proposed. might
They
be
have a little
helpful.
bit like an angled one, I think, but elevation helps, cross-section sometimes, because the site is deep, so we don't see a little bit further. For example, the neighbor that spoke on public comment, we don't see their property here, There's no way that it's behind the project.
So which, which properties would we want to
I think
show a section of here?
if you go to
This one?
so I think the public comment was from the 105. So 109 and 116, I think they're the most impacted, so
109, oh, and the ones
109
that- well,
and 116.
yeah, in our comment, frankly, I'm not worried about 116. It's right next to a pool, and otherwise it's their garage next to a garage.
And I think that elevation that they had, it shows the 116, but there's no
Right.
way we can see the 105 and 109 relationship with the new proposed in
Yeah, and I guess
documentation.
I would just say that 109 and 105 are mostly impacted by the location
Of
of
the ADU, not the main house.
Yeah, the main
and we'll-
house is,
We'll stick to comments right
but-
now, though, but I do agree, so I want to address all the comments first. Any other comments?
Yes, my
Okay.
comments.
Board Member Richards?
Yeah, I agree that I think a couple site sections would be really helpful in understanding how the roof deck relates to the neighboring properties and privacy. I do think that you guys should maybe take a look at how you guys are, I guess, screening the back of the property with fencing and what that's going to look like with the ADU, because it didn't look like there was a lot of planting proposed on that south side that wraps the ADU. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to go up to page 4, which is T 1.4, to the view from the street. And I think, yeah, the upper left one there, or upper right, I know my directions. And I kind of disagree a little bit with some of the comments from the board, because I think that the house is set fairly back on the triangle. I do think that there's room to reduce the amount of hardscape that's so visible, and maybe adjust the materiality of the turnaround or something, and bringing in more greenery within the pavings or some kind of breaking up so that it's not solid surface. There's potential to soften that front right elevation in some way, whether that's through a planter or bringing it in a little bit. I actually don't think that the height needs to come down. I think it's more about the width filling the fullness of the lot there. But I think that can be done through softening of details and or landscaping. And I think it's worth studying that view for the roof patio railing and figuring out something to where we see less of that railing would be preferred, because you come at this house straight down the street, so you see it at a distance and you'll see this railing. And I think when you come in for PDA, bringing some sense of that detail, because maybe it can be tied in a little bit. As far as some of the public comments on compatibility, we're looking at compatibility from a size, bulk, and scale, and general massing. And even though this is Spanish and maybe isn't neighbored by some other Spanish, you're allowed to choose whatever style of house that you want. And I think that the roof angles and general shape is in keeping with the general neighborhood of that area, knowing that most of the parts that have already started the second story additions are along shoreline. Along this street, they haven't started, but they're going to be, and we know that. And so setting the tone right now, which is what you've done, of trying to come in on the second story so that it's not straight up and down, is what we're looking for. Differing from, I don't think a site section, I think they've kept the second floor as low as you can keep a second floor with an 8-foot plate height. I don't think a site section is going to change that, but I do think it could be helpful to see the roof deck from other, that's okay. And to see where you might see that and or balconies, but to me, I don't think the height is in question. And I think from neighbors, it's a standpoint of the ADU location, which is outside of our purview. I think the house itself is placed well on the site. So I'd like to hear a little bit more on what you think these deliverables might help us change our decision on, rather than just them being helpful. Their comments.
I had kind of a question about the FAR too, because applicants are being asked to include the ADU in the FAR, and if it's over 85%, then we're asking for the additional submittal requirements, and then this one technically without the ADU is not, but because you are requiring applicants to add the ADU to the FAR, does that mean that we have to waive the supplemental? We already did the 20 closest homes, but are we looking at this as?
They've already done most of the supplemental. The only thing that they haven't done, it would be an optional story poles, but
And I would say that because the accessory dwelling unit is not under purview of the board, we include the FAR just so that we are able to tell what the main residence FAR is compared to the ADU. It's something that the board has asked questions about when it comes to FAR calculations when homes are proposed. For this project, it wasn't required because the project was under that 85% of maximum required floor area ratio. So staff was not planning on requesting any waiving because it's not technically required. The applicant went ahead and provided those details, knowing that with the FAR, that they would be over that 85% if it was included. But again, the ADU is excluded from design review. So for this project, we are just focusing on the fact that it is at 82% FAR for this home.
Ellen Kokinda, Design Review Supervisor, if I may, to the board. It's really, ADUs make everything confusing. I just want to acknowledge that for your sake, for the public's sake. Sometimes people come in and they plan a brand, a new two-story construction, but they don't have the ADU, and then they come back with the ADU. So you're always seeing something different, and so it's hard to really, information-wise, as Mr. Herrick's mentioned, they didn't trigger any additional supplemental requirements just based on the submittal, and I'm not 100% sure what was included in this packet, but if you need additional information as a board, you can request it. And so your purview is the residence, which again, this applicant has acknowledged that it doesn't exceed the 85%, but you're looking at the entire site, and so you can ask for additional information if you need it.
Thank you.
Board Member Scheer, do you have additional comments?
Yeah, I just had one about, I'll clarify what I meant by the right-hand massing, and that's when I said that I wish it wasn't a two-story stacked. It's, and I think that Chair Lewis stated that there might be a way to alter or manipulate or somehow soften the two-story massing. Maybe that's what you meant. It's just, to me, like I said before, I don't have an issue with the square footage, the amount. It's just, partly it's the angle, partly it's the fact that it actually extends out over the lower level because there's an overhang, and there's, maybe it's because if there was maybe another mature tree to the right of the other one, and it just, right now, it's a lot of two-story mass facing the street and a lot of hardscape. So I just want to clarify what I meant by that.
That's helpful.
Yeah, could you go back to I think it's the west elevation? Or just the view from the street, I guess. Yeah, west elevation, okay. Yeah, I think that's the challenge, because the page we were just on, it's almost from a different angle, and the right side of the massing is more hidden as it's angled back. And at this elevation, it just presents as more of a horizontal massing. So I think I'm still trying to figure out how it would read from the street, and I don't know if one of our requests would be to further develop that if possible. I mean, you've done a great job providing so many different angles and renderings, but I think that's from my perspective where I'm getting a little thrown off by this. But when we go back to the other image, the page you were just on, it actually...
Well, and actually go to T1.5,
Yeah, I was gonna say the street
because that's
elevation
actually
right
from the street in the cul-de-sac where the
Yeah.
neighbor has a fence, a large tree, and their house blocking right there.
Right. So from that perspective, that almost feels like a completely different house to me because the entire right side of all those windows and rooms is blocked.
Right.
Again, I don't know, coming from a slightly different angle, but to me, I think this reads a lot better. To some of the board members' points, I do think adding a tree in that front planter, maybe beyond a palm tree or some of the canopy trees you were citing in the next plan would just be helpful to know what specific specimens. But I think as I look through this more, I feel a lot more comfortable with the scale of it. And again, as we think about heights and the right side of it is actually pulled off pretty significantly from the fence line because of the off-street parking for the ADU. I think, you know, I can kind of think a little bit more of my comments on the massing in bulk, but.
Okay. Just to confirm, that fence is your neighbor's fence. That's not part of this property?
It's not, that's what's there right now. I'm not sure which property it's on. I could check the survey. Do you know, Robert? Which?
I'm not sure.
If it is a part of your
It
property.
actually looks like it's on our property, and
Okay.
yeah, that would have to be adjusted for the,
Visibility
Yeah.
triangle anyway. But if it's part of your property, it'd be nice to design that holistically with the design of the house.
Yeah, I wasn't showing fencing at that height there.
okay.
Okay.
I
Then
think
it-
also, maybe you could go back to that streetscape view, because what's not rendered into that is that we wanted to put 2 canopy trees right along where that fence is shown, and you can see kind of behind the tree that's in the foreground, there's actually a jacaranda tree on the neighboring property, and then we're gonna have 2 trees on the fence side of
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
you could imagine that a lot of that side of the house would visually be screened by what's going to be proposed. So maybe at the next go-around, we can
We'll
bring
make
you
that as a part of the
rendering.
motion, is we'll update the proposed streetscape to include the proposed landscaping, including fencing.
That's really helpful, thank you.
So, Board Member Mosley, if they were to do a site section, what would be the specific site section, and what do we think that it might
Yeah.
alter in their design?
I think it could be a side section or the way that you guys have the streetscape from the Los Alamos. Like if there's a view that you can photo match from San Nicolas, like kind of close to where the shoreline and San Nicolas, or like in
From
front
that
of the
street.
105 or 109, when you're standing and looking at the proposed project, what are you seeing now and what will you see with the new proposed project? So that will help us understand the bulk and mass from the other neighbor's view as well. It could be a side section or it could be a view that we see that, exactly like the way that you have it from Los Alamos. So whichever works better, that would be good.
Okay. 109, 105. Okay, I'm about to make a motion, but anything else we want to add into this? Oh, yes. Oh, I think that would be helpful. We did get the public comment about drainage, and once the project goes through planning, it also goes through the building department, and everything's reviewed by the city for drainage and water, and staff, would you like to handle that?
Yeah. Hello. So for building permits submittals, there's what we call storm water management practices. We call it SWIMP for short. And for stormwater management, the city has several different tiers that a project has to meet. It goes during this whole application process. When this project is deemed complete, they'll already have a rough drainage plan that has already been checked by Public Works and Creek staff for water runoff. When it gets to the building permit stage, it will be rechecked again with any necessary reports from actual engineers or folks hired by the applicant team. So drainage is taken very seriously here, given the floods and everything like that. But it is something that building and safety does check for prior to issuance of the building permit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So with that, I move to continue this project indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. That the board generally appreciates the aesthetic of the proposed residence that the applicant study the massing, the visual weight of the massing on the right side of the property facing the street to help reduce the visual weight, whether by reducing the size and or screening with landscaping or architectural elements. That the applicant provide an existing streetscape view from the same angle as the proposed, and provide an updated proposed streetscape that shows the proposed landscaping and any adjustments to the fences. That the applicant study the roof railing as visible from the street to help reduce the visual impact from the street. The applicant provide a site section or rendering from San Nicolas and Shoreline near 105 San Nicolas or 109 San Nicolas to help understand the height of the balconies and roof deck from these properties. The board would like to see screening of some sort in plantings or fencing around adjacent properties, especially near the lower portion of the property. The board finds the proposed height to be reasonable, especially given the 9-foot first floor plate height and 8-foot second floor plate heights. The board recommends studying the expanse of hardscape visible from the front street to help reduce the visual mass seen between the hardscape and the building.
I'll second the motion, but I have a question if the maker of the motion could remove the word study. There's 3 times where we've said study, and they could come back and they could say, I studied it and I don't want to do it. I think it.
Study and propose a solution.
Yeah, or instead of like the one you said, study reducing the visual impact, just reduce
Remove
the
study.
visual
Okay, thank
impact.
you.
And then the third one was study the amount of hardscape. I would say reduce or screen. And then the first one you used study was with regards to the massing on the right-hand side. And so it would be, instead of study, it would be modify the front elevation to reduce if that's okay.
I accept the revisions to the motion.
Can we add something if the maker of the motion agrees? The applicant to reach out the neighbor on the north, 116 Los Alamos and 109 San Nicolas for the good neighbor guidelines for the next time they come in, so we won't have an issue moving forward.
I'll add an encouragement at the end, an encouragement to have discussions with adjacent neighbors.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'll take the vote. Board Member Mosley?
Yes.
Board Member Richards?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry?
Yes.
And Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is a new item here for concept review. 871 Summit Road, proposal to demolish the existing 1,142 square foot single-story residence and construct a new two-story, 4,926 square foot home with a 1,432 square foot basement and a new attached three-car, 800 square foot garage. The existing 332 square foot two-car garage is proposed to remain. New patio, balconies, and outdoor fireplace are proposed, along with new driveway paving, gate, and walls. 3 trees are proposed for removal, as well as existing landscaping. The floor area ratio for the proposed total 6,058 square feet on a 92,783 square foot lot is 108% of the maximum guideline floor area ratio. This project is part of the Hillside Design District, so we will later during PDA be making sloped lot findings. Okay, any staff comments?
Yes, so this project is just here for conceptual review. Again, we're looking for very broad comments on the design style, the siding, and mass bulk and scale. Staff is still reviewing the project, so you'll note the multiple findings. When we send back the corrections letter, we'll be asking for some more details on landscaping, tree removals, and some grading. So the applicant may not have all that information yet, but if there's anything that you guys are curious about, I think it would be a great time to ask and request that at the next hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please make sure your microphones are on and state your name for the record.
Hi, Mark Winke, architect with Windward Design Services.
Kyle Dixon, Windward Design Services.
Okay, you'll have 15 minutes to present.
Can we do this?
Thank you.
We should probably switch spots. Hi, this project is, would you say, behind Montecito Golf Course? And you have to get to it by going around it, but in this particular view, as you can see on the screen, is from down below, flying in as a bird without any of the trees being shown, really. It's really well forested for the most part, and the left-hand side is along Summit, I believe, right? That's Summit Street. Is an arroyo going along the edge of the street. So what happens is there's this little knoll that the house is situated on, really the only area. And then the parts of the house that you can see are half a story or 1.5 stories exposed are the basement area below that they're utilizing as square footage for the house, bedrooms and things like that. So it's really a one-story house with a basement below. That's how the square footage has gotten so large. Each one of the modules is a relatively thin building with views into their own courtyard and to the ocean also beyond. And that's why the shape is sort of amorphic, maybe like a Y with or a J. The front is off the, here's the site plan. So Summit is on the left, and as you can see, as soon as you pull in, there is an existing building to the right, which is basically a small garage at this point. And the house is in the same location that the proposed house is. And then you come across a bridge which goes over a small arroyo and to the property and turns into a circular area where you can then enter the garage and see the front of the house. There's going to be some civil stuff here that you don't need to see, I don't think, or care about. That's the existing house being torn down, and there's an existing bridge that goes over the arroyo by foot at this point. Okay. These sheets are relatively small, so that's the garage on the upper left. Can you get the whole thing in there? Oh, there we go. Like that. Okay. And then the front of the house is off to the middle, and so that first wing is the living room wing and the entry. To the left is the stairs. To the right, to the courtyard in front, but you go to the right, there's the garage, the laundry room, the kitchen, the living room wing on that side, and then straight ahead off to the right-hand side of this drawing would be the left-hand side as you enter, is the master bedroom suite and one more bedroom. Down, okay. The rest of that drawing then rotates, so there's the garage section, three-car garage with a connecting wing that's just below it, and the other rooms I just explained earlier. The yellow indicates the plan, the sheet behind it or before us. That gives you a pretty decent idea of how the shape of it is, the garage, the metal roof, some connecting links. And then to the section to the right, if you remember from the entryway, that stairway comes down, then there's 2 more bedrooms downstairs and a family room. Existing house is that. Not very large. There's the existing garage that's up at the front of the street. And it's okay. So as you come into the court, motor court, that's what the front of the house looks like. They're planning to do the entire facades in a kind of a farm stone, a kind of a, I think the name of it's in there somewhere, but it's sort of a flagstone, farm stone kind of approach, so that it feels very natural to the surroundings, fireproof and otherwise like it'd been there a while. The drawing behind it, or below it I mean, is the rear courtyard, or the rear courtyard of the house. Those are the materials. So as the house is sited on top of the knoll, as the left-hand side then opens up to like what they call a walkout basement approach, and the second story or the first story, the basement is below there, and you can see it again on the other section. So the area below the living room kitchen is basically crawl space. Can you see that from that view? There's a view of the garage and the entry gate. A couple of sections through the project. Yeah. What else can we tell you? I think, okay. There's a couple of renderings to look at. We played around with different looks, like some wood, some stucco, some different pitches, but in the end, we decided to keep it very diminutive and simple and have the, I think it's 8-12 pitch roof,
Yes.
out of metal siding, non-glossy, standing seam, and stone.
And then one more thing we have, I believe there was a secondary attachment for an alternate entryway opening.
Yeah, that should be in the last few pages of the plans. I kind of tacked them on after the site photos, I believe. Yeah, they should be there for reference.
I think you'll probably want to see this. There's got to be a better way to do this. Okay. There's where the house is sited. The existing one is shown there, and the new area. There's one house just to the west of it. There's the Montecito Country Club below. You can see how many trees there are. And the other house that's to its north is also shown there. You can't really see any houses on to its east. What else?
So what you'll see in these, in an early submittal, you saw that woodwork above the entryway, and we felt it was a little minimal. So this alternate entryway is going with the same stone finish. It gives a little bit more volume. It's a bit wider. We've spaced it out, added bench seating, and you'll kind of see if you zoom in on that bottom left, we've opened up these walls to just give more visual aspects to it. The look from that third view is all that landscaping, all that forestry. So we thought by opening up and providing those larger free openings at the entryway on the left and right side, as people come in into that massing, you can look out over all that area.
Forgive the small, tiny bush-looking trees at this point. Okay, I think that's it. Any questions?
All right, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. At this time, I don't have any speaker slips, but if anyone in the room would like to speak on this, they can fill out a slip along the wall. Not seeing any movement. We do not currently have any attendance online, and we did not receive written correspondence on this item, so I will give it back to you.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with comments from the board. Questions, thank you. Board Member Sherry?
A couple questions. Do you have any neighborhood photos and like approach? I saw the photos close up of the existing house, but kind of missing context here.
We don't have photos of the neighboring properties. As you come down the road, we're right at the corner, and currently there's just the pedestrian bridge. So we are proposing.
Yeah, just photos would, like, a narrative is not doing it for me. I kind of need
No.
to see the neighborhood.
There's none in this set.
Okay, other questions?
Okay, yeah. So there's no more photos of I thought I saw one photo of the street, maybe. It was like right at the driveway.
We do, yeah.
Maybe I could see that one,
That'll
but
be the fourth, page 4.
and
Page, did I already pass it?
it's pretty down in your set where the photos were, but I think there was one. Yeah. If you could zoom in on those 3 photos.
Yeah, A, B, and C on the far
A,
right.
B, and C on the far right, yeah.
Erica. What did I do?
That might
It's a
help
touch
little.
screen if that's helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say, thanks.
Help.
There's also a mouse, so I don't know if that's helpful.
I lost the thing. Am I too zoomed in?
You can, Mark, you can
Yeah,
pinch the
perfect.
screen too. Yeah.
Further. Mark. There we go.
That's your neighbor?
That's
Or
the
what is
neighbor?
this?
Yes, this neighbor is directly across from the driveway on the
Those
right-hand
are
side.
neighbors across the street?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're higher than us.
And.
There's the sort of the similar look of the stone while we're here.
Okay.
So will you go over actually to number 1 on the garage, on the far left? Stay on the top, actually. Number 1.
Yeah, so currently that number 1, that's what's visible.
Okay.
And then this pedestrian bridge sits right off the back end of that car that you see in image 1, and that's currently the only access to the house.
Okay.
That's right off the street?
Right off the driveway there.
And it's
Yeah.
going up?
It goes downhill slightly. Yeah.
So it goes, the house is lower than the driveway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm really confused. Go back to the site plan for a second, sorry.
Yeah, and actually, so A102 shows your demo of the existing house, but do you have that on a site plan?
Yeah.
Will you show us the site plan of that?
One of my
Of the
questions was
existing?
to where's the existing house on the site plan too?
I mentioned it's right in the same location. That kind of shows, let's start with this one since I'm already on that page. There's the existing house in the red, and then the new house is in that same knoll. But
And
in-
roughly where is the
opposite
bridge from
location.
this view?
The bridge sits here, right about here, and then it works its way across to the front left corner of the house.
And that's the walk in the woods? Okay.
Yeah, it really is when you're out there.
So would you go to A101? Sorry, Board Member Sherry, I'm
No, that's fine.
interjecting here,
You
but
wanna wonder?
A101, it's your site plan, all the way at the top, page 10.
The numbers don't line up for me.
You're reading my mind. Anyway,
Oh, go down, page 10, 9, 10, 9.
You said A101.
one more.
Yeah, page 10,
I don't see anything-
A101.
I don't see anything you guys are seeing. I see
Yeah,
C.
you see 10 of 29 that you're on now. So this is your proposed site plan, and if one of you could draw over it roughly
Yes.
where the existing bridge is and the existing homes.
And maybe can you pinch on that and zoom in so that I can see those numbers? Like, I was confused. I thought the house was on a hill and it was
Yeah, so
higher than the
this-
road.
This area here is the arroyo I spoke of.
I
and
can't
there's-
tell what you're pointing
Oh,
at.
yeah, okay. This area here is the arroyo that I was speaking of. So he comes in off here, goes downhill, then it goes into the arroyo, and it goes back up, and this is the knoll. And then there's basically this knoll short of shape like that. And then it's downhill, 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 another arroyo across the backside. So when he comes across here, it bridges over the arroyo, and then at this part is the high part of the property, if you will, and then it turns into a motor court at that point, and then the house sits on that section.
And where's the outline of the existing house on the site plan?
It's right in the same area, right like that.
The red?
No, it's not shown. They
It's
don't
not
have it shown.
And the driveway is existing?
No,
No.
there's no driveway on the property.
The only thing going across is
There's
the
no
footbridge.
driveway. You're building a driveway with a bridge
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
goes down and up again. Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
And Chair Lewis, I just wanted to let you know that we did receive a note for public comment from one of the neighbors, and they were requesting if they could speak and if you would be able to open that back up again. It's completely up to you. Since we already.
Yes, we've just passed it, so yes, I'll allow.
Okay. Would you like to do that now or after
Let's
your
do it now.
questions? Okay.
Okay, I'll call up Chris Melton. Please just make sure that your microphone is on when you're speaking, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
And if you can state your name and address.
Yes, I'm Chris Melton. Oh, shit, all right. Yeah, hi, I am Chris Melton, and my address is 865 Summit Road. So I live in the house that's immediately to the north. So I submitted some photos basically of my view, and I'm, pretty much here because I'd like to preserve my ocean view, as much as possible. So I have an ocean view from basically like the second level of my home and like the main level too, and also, even like the ground level at this point because a lot of trees have been taken out so far at that, property. I'm not sure if you can show the photos that I submitted or not. I sent an email last Friday to you can't. Okay. But I can kind of provide context. Basically, the property that they're proposing to develop on, it's sort of between two creeks that meet at the bottom of the property. It's it's kind of an interesting property because there's no access right now by like a driveway or anything. There's just kind of like this walking bridge, and there's actually like an exposed sewer line that comes out of the ground right there. So it's a very interesting place. It's a very low-lying area. And my kind of like main concern is not to block the drainage of basically the creek or like the groundwater coming down through that area. It's a very wet area, and there's a lot of water that comes down through there, especially in the wintertime. I would just, in the end, I'd like to preserve as much of my basically like ocean view as possible and kind of the view of the golf course as well. I think that's it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll return to questions from the board. Board Member Sherry, do you have any others? Okay.
believe
Board
he's-
Member Graffiti?
His house is right there.
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to go back, so we were talking about where the house is, so the footbridge goes down, then the house, then it goes back up to the house, but I guess the sea level, or not the sea level, the street level versus the, I guess, finished floor of where the house is. Can you help me understand the difference? I was looking at the topo map and I was trying to look at the numbers, but it's still
what's
low,
your
it's
finished
lower,
floor?
right?
Your
But-
finished floor is 193, is that right?
That sounds correct.
Okay, and then
It'll be
your
on
street
A101.
is at roughly 202?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And what's the highest point of the house, I guess? It doesn't I mean, yeah, I guess that's a hopeful question, but like to the top of the ridge line from finished floor.
I believe the overall height that's on a cover sheet's 27 feet or 27 and a half feet.
It
now.
is 20, okay.
Do you know
One
what the
story plus a
existing
roof.
one is?
It's a single story.
No,
Like
we-
a Form
I don't
12,
think we
it's
do.
not. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That was another one of my questions, was just photos of the current site. I'm just trying to understand how much it's going to kind of stick up and out. So I don't know if others have questions that might help us kind of figure that out without as many photos of the current site. But I think that's it for now, for me.
So I know that right now we're missing the proposed landscape, but if you could walk us through where the 3 trees that are being removed, where are those located?
The 3 trees that are being removed are for the driveway. They all exist right now in that roundabout and where the bridge is being proposed.
Okay. And then is the driveway bridge in the same location as the proposed, or the existing walkway bridge, or no?
No, so the driveway bridge sits further north on the property, closer to.
Okay. Can we go back to page 10, A101?
Where's the back click buttons instead of the?
Mark, you can
Yeah.
type in 10.
Where it says 25, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So if you could draw over on this with your cursor, where's the existing pedestrian bridge? Oh, no.
You know, maybe we get a smaller monitor for me, I can do it on my phone.
There you go.
So the existing pedestrian bridge comes right off the front of the existing garage and sits here.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and the current proposed bridge is longer, and this was after discussions with planning to protect the water course. So the
Okay.
bridge shown there is about 40 feet.
And is the driveway opening larger than existing?
No, so the blue shown is the existing driveway. We've placed the gate there. The gate will be new, and then the entire driveway across is all new.
And what influenced that gate aesthetic and design?
That was just a desire to be consistent with neighbors and provide privacy for the owner.
So do you have materiality or photos of any of the other gates? You
We do
had
not.
one? Okay. Okay, and then it appears that most of your windows have a similar head height, but 1 or 2 of them, maybe just, they don't keep the same one. I can see one through the rendering that shows the west elevation on page 17 of the PDF. So I have 2 more. Well, and on that one on the north. So what are we looking at there? Window A03 has a different head height than the other ones. Oh, that's a type. That's not the door. That's not the window itself. But on the far left, they have a different head height. Is that intentional or a drafting error?
That is just, yeah, the intention with that, and it's the same when you come around the corner, which isn't on the elevation shown here. It's because of that view out that angle. So the hope is to provide as much fenestration as people come into the entryway and to be able to get a glimpse, whether it's through the fenestration. Maybe you can go to the next page for the other elevation. There, the large window on the right-hand side. And really the intent is with the large fenestration as people come through, it's to get them that peak of all the forestry that
See,
sits in
that large
corner.
window looks like it aligns with some of them on the east, but then potentially with the distortion, not the ones on the west. But then when you go to page on the north side, if you go up a page also.
I would say that most of the windows are 8-foot ceiling.
Could you go
or
up a
plate.
page on
And
the,
Could you
then
go up a page?
The ones that are
there?
on the gable ends are higher by a foot.
Will you go up a page? On page 16, yep, up at the top. So there, when we're looking at the front elevation, that window to the left of the front door has a higher head height.
Yeah, that's because the one on to the left, which is the bottom here, is also higher. So those windows match in that room.
Okay.
Yeah, as you come into the entryway, there's an open stairwell that wraps around that wall line here where you see this window and the larger on the other elevation. And so we've matched the head height through that corner, this window here and that, although it's misleading because of the gable. when you come into that space, that window header will be consistent all through that corner.
Okay. And then looking at the south elevation, what's currently dictating the divides of the window arrangements?
So. What's what?
The different glazed openings, I see that, some are sliding doors, and that makes sense, but there's,
I think the bigger ones.
is there a
have
hierarchy?
awnings. Below?
Yes, some have a horizontal divide, some do not, some
Some-
have a middle and a horizontal.
Yeah, some are fixed with an awning below and sliding doors. The lower ones are always awning below. So you can open it.
So, okay, so operability is what's
Yeah,
driving this,
yeah,
but
we're
on
speaking
those,
about
that whole
the-
bottom is open?
Yeah, for these windows here on the single story section, this first floor, these are all intended to be operable.
From the lower side?
Yeah, from beneath the fixed window.
Okay, but they don't have a central mullion, but some of them do.
I think that's just on our gable windows, but we can visit that.
These two on the
I'm just
ends
trying to figure out what the design ethos was. Okay. Okay, if you can go back to your material, I think it might be up or down. There we go.
Absolutely.
So the bronze, what is that, Marvin, ultimate, the third image? What
That's
is
just
that
the proposed for the trim on the windows, our
Got
finish
it,
for all the
okay.
windows and doors.
And then the slate gray,
That's just
That's
the landings.
the landings?
That was desired
Okay.
stonework.
And then what's the material for your gate then? It's something dark, it's that
That'll be on
charcoal.
the next page below. Keep going. Here it is.
So the rendering appears gray, but is that stone, or what is the gray part
No, I believe.
outside of the gate?
I believe that it's.
A3 board form wall.
Yeah, like a board form concrete wall, and then the gate itself will be the like the shusugiban charcoal, like the burnt wood finish.
And do you have board form elsewhere?
No, we do not.
Okay. And what's driving that 6'7" height?
I just believe that we were trying to go with this a height that was desirable. It could be influenced by maybe the assumption of the door height or the gate height.
Okay.
It shows the highest point.
All right. Board Member Mosley, any questions?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions. One question is, like related to other board members' questions, I really want to know the difference of the overall height of the existing house and the new proposed. So maybe next time, if you have that, that will be really helpful for us to understand the massing, especially looking from the north neighbor view, how much we're going taller. And one question about the massing is there two chimneys? There's one that it's like a stone chimney, and there's one which doesn't have the stone, but on the cover sheet image, I don't see that chimney, so I'm wondering if that is like a,
One's a flue for the kitchen.
does it exist?
No, this is.
One's a flue for the kitchen, and one's a fireplace.
Oh, so it sticks out as much as the chimney?
You talking about that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sticks up.
So, and if you go to south elevation and east elevation on, let's go to page A203.
That's south elevation.
Yes, west elevation, actually. 203, yes. So, related to board, Chair Louis' question, on west elevation, that window to the right, the head height is like taller. Is it like a visual error that we're seeing, or like it's this one and the other one and the other wing, they're like taller?
Yeah, the windows in the where the gables are, it's misleading. We go up to 10 foot, so the top of those windows match the plate height at the ends of both roofs. So it is a little misleading. And then I think we bring it just off of the floor.
So they are taller.
Yes, yeah, all the windows shown on the gables, on the open gable ends, are significantly taller.
And if you go back to one sheet to 202, so on the south elevation, on the left side, the wall between the openings, how much are those?
This here?
Yes, like these three windows that are
Yeah, that's
really
pop
close
out
to
in
each
the
other.
kitchen.
No, a little bit to the left, these large three windows,
Oh.
the wall between them.
Oh,
I'm
these
wondering.
See, they're shown on angle, but do
Yes.
you know what that width is?
Looks like about a foot.
So my question is that, is the distances between the openings on that elevation, this three that it looks like angled with the other three on the right wing, are they repeating a rhythm or they're different?
I'm assuming they're not, but I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, it might be nice to look at the floor plan, A103.
Yeah, no,
Thanks.
the spacing we've shown here in the entryway is wider than the spacing between these. In fact, it looks like we're just doing, a 6x6 post between those openings. It'd
those
probably
are
be.
6 by 6.
Realistically, that would not be stone, even if it's shown as stone at this point, because it
It's
would,
rendered as stone, but
it would
that
just
was one of
be-
my, that was
it
a
would just
comment
be
I was going to
metal,
make.
aluminum,
It's pretty.
to make it look like one large opening.
Okay. And can you go to 900? A900?
Oh, the renders.
I think the renders.
Do you happen to know what number of 20?
Yes, 900, this one. On number 1, there's a window in the middle that it's like the massing, the geometry, it's like a box out. This one. Is it the only condition that the house is doing this?
So right there, yeah, we have a kitchen. It's actually reflected on the opposite side too, on the patio, which you might be able to see on image 4 next to that window we were discussing. Those actually align with each other on opposite sides.
Oh, so it happens like on two
Yeah,
sides?
completely
Okay.
parallel to one another.
What's interesting, the one on the pool side goes down towards the ground. This one just pops up and nothing's kind of supporting it all the way down to
This
the
is
ground.
like a bay window,
I see.
because the ground is receding from it, and the other one's in the courtyard.
So the height of the box that it's coming out is the same?
Right, that's the only bay window. The other one sticks out by the pool.
Yeah, those
And
on
it
that end,
goes
it comes
as the
straight
full
into
to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, those were my questions, I think.
Board Member Richards?
Yeah, so you guys seem to be touching every part of this property except for that existing garage. What's kind of driving that decision?
The existing garage right now is just something that the owner wanted to preserve with where it's at. It's unique in the sense that it's in a condition that's non-conforming. And the future use at this time hasn't been determined. And then behind it, which we haven't shown, there's an existing Edison vault. And so, we're trying to limit what impact we have with them.
If we're going to that west elevation, kind of just, I guess, another comment, or I guess we're looking at it in this view, there's a reason why you didn't carry that bay window down to the ground and kind of give it some solidity?
Sorry, which
This
view?
one here?
Yeah, on view 1.
Yeah, because just wanted it to be a bay window that was hanging.
Yeah, and that, if I'm not mistaken, that side facing here, that's actually their kitchen. So what we've done in there is done a countertop and a sink placement. So we wanted to put the window in a place that would limit the clearance.
Building off of that, is there a reason why it's still stone?
We probably would change that to something that's lighter weight, like metal or wood, in the future.
And then I guess, building off of that other comment, so it seems like all the other doors and windows go, for the most part, floor to ceiling, or not floor to ceiling, but head to floor. And I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but is there a reason why at the ends you lifted it up a foot? Is there?
So what, really it's just these open gable ends, it's vaulted in both of those spaces. And it was just to maximize the view and
Like,
try
I mean,
to.
you didn't take it to the floor, though. Is there a reason for that?
I'd have to confirm. from my understanding, I
look at the
believe.
elevations,
Yeah, I
maybe the
believe our
west
intent is to
elevation.
bring them down to the floor.
If we could look at the west elevation, maybe.
So I guess the answer is we haven't really not studied that, but there's a good chance they would all go to the floor. If they don't already.
I think that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to comments. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start us off?
And in general, I think pending the verification of the height, that I think is a really good question about the difference between the existing and the new because of just preserving the existing massing and views. And it's really, it's hard to make comments when I can't really see the site at all or any. So the first thing I think we need is our neighborhood streetscape on the same side of the street as well as site photos, all looking around, looking at existing residents would help a lot. But, overall I can, pending verification of all those things, I think that the general size, I don't take exception to the size of the house. But I think that maybe that some of the details about the stone you'll get to, but I'll just make my comments now about them so that you have them. Is stone as a material? I think just take a really hard look at you've got a lot of openings in this house, yet it's a stone house. So rather than stone is a kind of a material where you want to do penetrations in the mass rather than large expanses of glass. So you want to watch your distances between windows when they're thin, and Mark already touched upon that. Just there needs to be an appropriate amount of stone between the windows, or change the materiality to something other than stone. So, and that what's going to be interesting to see is how you handle the lintel, because on a stone house, you either want a metal lintel or a wood lintel or something that kind of gives you an understanding of the language of a stone house and how windows and doors are handled. And also that will occur between the two levels, maybe you don't want anything between the two levels, but you've got the first and the second story flowing into just a 2-story stone house, and maybe that's what you want. Then I don't know if it is or not. It looks like there's an opportunity there to do something different with the stone. And the cantilevered kitchen may not want to be cantilevered if the stone doesn't have anything to sit on. Some of the windows, the rectangular windows, are just kind of incongruous with the rest of the window language. Those horizontal windows, like on the west, the far left of the west window, and also, how you're handling the operable windows, and some of them are really, really wide. And I think that the language might have been that when you get a really wide window, you put a vertical stile in to separate the awning window below, but then there's some really, really wide awning windows on some of those, so you might, look at very carefully how that language is. So.
Board Member Graffiti?
Okay, great. I think this has the potential to be a really cool project, so I'm excited for it, and definitely an improvement over what's there. I think 27 and a half feet is a really tall height for us to try to make assessments about without having site photos. So to Vice Chair Sherry's point, I think having photos from where the project is, maybe like a 360 all around that, and then definitely from Summit Road, and if there are other, I don't know if the lower Summit Road or if there are any other kind of public roads viewing, I think it goes in the Montecito Club, so it's probably
Yeah.
not visible. But if there are other roads where the projects would be visible, include those. Okay, it sounds like not.
I just want to correct something because
Okay.
it floated out here. 27 feet is how far it is, deep it is from the basement level.
Oh,
Correct.
got
The
it.
existing
Okay.
house is
Yep.
sitting on the nose, so is
Okay.
the new house sitting on the nose. So basically,
Okay.
they're maybe 4 feet higher than the old house.
Okay, that's
I didn't know.
helpful context to have, but that's
Yeah,
another
we-
point
we've
again,
picked
is
the plate
heights
height
from.
up a foot, and then the pitch is changed. So the proposed does sit taller than the existing, but
But thank
Mark's
you. We'll put
correct.
it as a part in our
Yeah.
comments. We'll need those drawings.
Yeah, okay, so I think we're covering that, covering the photos. I do recommend one, kind of taking another look at the materials in the gate, and especially since none of those materials are being used anywhere in the house, and then there's also different materials used at the entryway, a different wood, a different stone. I think figuring out somewhere how to relate at least one similar material to the gate. And then it sounds like there's no changes to the garage, and I think in a perfect world, it sounds like it's non-conforming, but if there's any exterior changes you could make to better relate it to the project, just because our board, it really is tasked with making sure there's consistent architecture throughout a project, I think that would be great. And definitely more information on trees and landscaping when we see you in the future. That's it.
Okay, Board Member Moslehy.
I agree with all the comments that were made. I think one of the first.
Board Member Mosley, is your microphone on? Thank you.
I agree with all the comments that were made. I think the big challenge here is to understand the language of the stone house, the architectural style, and the cohesiveness. That's what we're looking for. And looking at that, the size of the openings, the proportion of the openings to the stone, the rhythm that they're repeating, and how they're divided, that's a little bit complex now to understand. So we're hoping that next time you guys have figured out this and progress. And the other thing, I'm sure that with adding landscape, a lot of questions about the size and bulk of the scale of the project will be resolved. I have a little comment about that penetration on the roof. I don't think for the kitchen, there's no other than the chimney, which is the stone chimney that it's coming out. I don't think maybe there's an architectural solution that can resolve that will, comparing to the proportion of the scale of the house, that one penetration, and I don't know what's the material exactly. Maybe with the proposed material and everything, we can look at it with the material board and it fits in to the style. And I agree with Board Member Graffiti's comment on the gate, because that's the only thing that the neighborhood will see from the project. And if you're defining a set of style and language of a house, stone house here, it kind of needs to tell the narrative to the neighborhood. To add the, whatever it's inside, you have a pick from it outside. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree. I build on that statement of making sure that the gate matches kind of the language that's going on in the house. And I would also throw the bridge into that too, and how that gets detailed. I think there also needs to be a little bit of a study of kind of what the other board members said of truth and materiality, and just making sure that it looks like it's what that material should be doing. Yeah, and then I would study the windows.
Okay. I think I've done a good job note-taking all of our stuff. I don't disagree with any of the comments here. The one thing I will add, right now, the difference between your window at the gable and the others doesn't feel strong enough to feel intentional. It feels like a misalignment. So, but I also think in the truth of the wood materiality, when you get into your lintel design, the top of the rest of the windows may need to come down a little bit. And so that could help make it feel like it's an intentionally larger window, where right now it's just barely off. And so it feels like a misalignment. I will make it as a part of the motion, but we really do need to see the site plan, the bridge design, the site walls, any site lighting, the way that the hardscape's going to connect in a site section, and or some other information that shows how it's connecting to the neighbors in some way, and the comparison of existing to proposed. So, okay, I move to continue this project to the full board with the following comments. That the applicant provide a site plan of the existing and show neighbors on a vicinity map, outlines of adjacent neighbors. That the applicant provide the existing and proposed spot elevations for top of roof. That the applicant provide street photos of the neighbors and of the existing property, and update the proposed street elevation. Provide site photos from around the property to better understand the changes happening towards the neighbors, where the bridge is going, and how the site moves where the proposed house is going. A site section or comparable graphic that shows the topography north to south, cutting north to south through the site, and the heights of the building. This could go back to be our first comment, but the board finds the general size, given the scale of the site, to seem reasonable. These are general comments regarding the study of the stone massing, that the openings need to follow a design rhythm in keeping with stone masonry construction, especially the distance between two openings. That the bay window needs to extend to the ground if stone, or could remain floating as another material. Show the lintel condition. Consider how the stone might be articulated between the basement and the first floor. Provide a consistent language to the windows and consider the alignments. Elevate the gate, bridge, and site walls, which should all tie back architecturally to the proposed house.
You mean draw them? You mean draw them, right? Okay. Not make them taller.
No, elevate. Oh, yeah, draft the elevations. Thanks. Provide material palette for the driveway and garage and plantings. As a part up at the top of the neighborhood photos, provide photos of adjacent gates. The board needs to see the proposed landscape plan and the demo plan, and how the hardscape will connect to the building, especially at the entrance.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I will take the vote. Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
and Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last item for today is also a new item here for concept review. Proposal for additions for the 739 Alturas del Sol. Proposal for additions for first, second, and third floors to the existing 2,687 square foot three-story home with an attached 489 square foot garage. 101 square feet of the first floor is proposed for demolition. A new covered 525 square foot first story deck facing the backyard and new 35 square foot second story balcony facing the street are proposed. New windows and doors throughout with roofing to match existing. The total proposed 3,545 square feet on a 64,552 square foot lot is 68% of the maximum guideline floor area ratio. No appealable decision today. They are also in the Hillside Design District. Any other staff comments?
No.
Okay.
actually.
Then great. If you can make sure your microphones are on and both state your name for the record, you'll have 15 minutes to present.
Yeah. Chris Cottrell, architect.
I'm Nancy Sweet, owner.
Great. All right. Okay, so Alturas del Sol is off Las Alturas. It's one of those little spurs. This was I'm just going to zoom into this aerial, 1976 development by Barry Burkus. There were 4 houses on this little cul-de-sac. So 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one is down here. This is our project right there. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. In 1988, these 2 houses split to let this tennis court be right between them, and the court is actually fairly close to 739. So yeah, these were all built at the same time, and this house, 739, was left in disrepair for the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years? Yeah, so it's been home to raccoons and bees, so it is derelict and needs some serious love. So the idea with this project is to clean it up. We're not growing this any higher than existing. Clean it up, make it more fireproof, and then take advantage of this canyon over here is beautiful. So it's really right now not looking at that canyon at all. It's very it's a multi-split level kind of extravaganza. I'll just walk you through it. With the 3rd story is just this little crow's nest. It's 200 square feet. So don't freak out when you hear 3rd story. This is not, this is not a huge house, and we're not changing that 3rd story. So let me go bigger, walk you through some photos. I'm going to jump to the last page of photos just because it'll give you a little site context first. Okay. So, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so this is on that let's see, eastern side of the cul-de-sac. This is the neighbor's house. There's the tennis court right there. And then these next pictures kind of just look to the north. So this is the tennis court between those 2 houses. Here is our subject property, 739 Las Alturas. And then this is 743 Las Alturas. If that ever comes into focus. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so material-wise, this is stucco. I don't know why that's not popping in. Ours was a wood siding, stained, and then the third one is a painted wood siding. So we're going to end this. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, maybe if I zoom out and come back in. There it is. Okay, there it is. Okay, cool. But you can see what a tinderbox this one is right now. It's got wood shingles, wood siding. It's in bad shape. Let's see what else to help you see where this is. Okay. This I wanted to take because I know you guys are always wondering what this looks like from other public streets. This was the only place I could get it. This was up on Las Alturas, looking down through that canyon. And let me zoom in and show you our house. I actually stood on a neighbor's stucco wall to get this. So here's the house, right there. And we are going to do a little covered patio off the back there. This is the neighbor's house on the other side of the tennis court. But this was the only shot I could find. Now let me just walk you through some site shots. Here's the survey. You can just see it's super steep down into this canyon. Creeks said, hey, how do we need this new creek setback buffer just came up. They're completely fine with us being where we are. We are 180 feet away from, it's not even a creek, it's just a waterway. And we're putting three caissons in the ground there, so they're totally fine. So this Barry Burkus design, the garage had a really heavy lid on it. It has probably a 30-inch thick cap on the garage that hung over on all the sides. And we'd like to, in this design, just clip that off and lighten this thing up a little bit. We're keeping the same shape of the house, but you can see just how kind of heavy and daunting that feels when you walk up to the house. Here are some of the views looking into that canyon from the house. You can just see, like, that is amazing, and that should be highlighted. What they have right now is this little bump out has a fireplace in it. So this big masonry fireplace is blocking your view to the canyon. So what we're proposing is where that bump out is, and I'll show you this in plan, taking that off, making a covered patio with a deck out there that just the living room opens out to that view. Then you've got outdoor living on that same view. View of the tennis court. Here's some more views from the cul-de-sac just to get an idea. And then I think on this sheet, there's some more. Okay. This is kind of from down canyon. This is the other side of that bump out. Zoom in there. There's that. So this chimney would go away. There it is again right there. This kind of side yard where that tennis court is. We will come back with a landscape plan. This was just to get us going. This is the front yard. You can see this jungle just needs some love. Okay, I'll just jump into plans and then we'll go from there. Okay, so there are 3 levels. This is the ground floor level. The garage footprint's not changing. When I get to our plans, I'll show you in pink where we're gonna do a couple little infill additions. This is that masonry fireplace out overlooking that canyon. So this chunk will get fully demolished. This will get infilled. We'll do a little infill at the addition. Same thing with the second story plan. Right now, this is just an open space with like a bridge across it, which is like, I could see the architectural coolness of it. It's just not very convenient for use. So that will get filled in. We're gonna fill this in. So that's not a mass bulk and scale addition. I'm gonna do a little addition right here. We'll put the primary bedroom on this side. And then upstairs, this footprint doesn't change. Again, it's got like a 2-story opening. We're just gonna fill that in, make this a little study on the top. Okay, so here's the ground floor plan. I need to zoom in a little bit. So you can see this entry, we're just filling that in a little bit. There's that little fill in. This blue area is where that bump out was. Here's our new outdoor deck. So a big opening, making this living room an indoor, outdoor, just this is what will make this house. Second story, this is that little open area that we just filled in with 2 bathrooms. And then this is the primary bedroom. So this kind of overlooks that tennis court area. And then third story, that little fill in right there. Okay, only one elevation of each side fits on a sheet, so we've got before and after on each sheet. Before is on the bottom, after is on the top. It's kind of hard to read these. We did a supplemental that has the same stuff, just a little bit more cleaned up. So the idea is to use a mixture of stucco and a wood, maybe a thermally modified hemlock or ipe, with the Type X underneath it for high fire, but just kind of clean this up and have those in a few key patches. So maybe the garage is wood and most of the body of the house is stucco, and then under that covered patio, we do a little stucco as well. I think we did one very preliminary rendering. I'll show it on this thing in a second. So this is street side. There's garage box in wood, maybe entry in wood. We've got a little balcony over the front. This is where we filled in, so this becomes a solid wood element to kind of just tie this in. But this is the original bone of the house. Like that is not changing. Okay, this is from the tennis court side. That's that primary suite up there. There's a covered patio. And then this is the back of the house. Covered patio. Big doors that open out on there. And then I'll just show you this little quick rendering right here. That's kind of the idea. Don't worry about the plants. They'll get a lot better once we get a landscape architect on there. You have anything to add?
No.
We talked to both neighbors. Both neighbors on either side actually wrote letters of support. They're super stoked to have anything done to this house. So I'll leave it there. I know you guys have been here a long time, but questions?
All right, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I do not currently have any speaker slips at this time. We do not have any attendance online either. I will acknowledge that we did receive written correspondence from Jan Hill and Barbara Offerman, and I will turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with questions. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start?
I'm curious why you were filling in the floors. You said you were filling all those areas in. I just was wondering why.
There were just a lot of really odd shafty spaces that could be used to actually make livable spaces. So it's not, we're not.
It's not like you needed the square footage. It just was a
No,
shaft that you didn't.
That was odd. Yeah. Yep.
No more questions.
I know you're still early stages, it sounds like, for materials for stucco color. Are there colors that you're thinking, it looks like in this photo, of some sort of white or off-white?
Yeah, we are early. It's probably an
Okay.
off-white.
Okay.
It's probably not too far from this.
Okay.
Black windows and a warm wood.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Board Member Moslehi?
Related to the materials, do you have an idea, like, not this view that we're looking at, from the other side, will it be all stucco?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Let me just pop down there. It is, so underneath the covered patio. Let me get to that view, sorry. So the idea is it's a similar mass. So that bump where that living room is, that gets that same treatment. So you kind of have wood on both sides of the house.
So you
like
have wood on that side.
Yeah.
And at some point you mentioned that under the deck, the new deck, there's stucco, but it's like, seems like exposed columns. Where's stucco? Like back in the back wall?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so back there. Yep.
And currently the retaining walls, they're stucco as well?
Correct.
Yeah? Okay. That was all my questions.
Board Member Richards?
Sure. Again, I know you're early in this, but in terms of the roofing material, what were you guys looking at doing?
I was probably going to go with an asphalt shingle. I think this would look good with a metal roof too. So the neighbor has, there's one of each on both sides.
And then door and window materiality, are you guys thinking?
Probably
wood?
dark anodized.
Dark anodized. Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you show us again? You said there's 3 remaining of these buildings by that architect. So one of them is white stucco now with the green metal roof. What's
Yep.
the other one?
There's 4 total?
Oh, okay.
5 total. I thought there were just 4. Well, there you go. Learn something new. Yeah, there are 2 that you cannot see. So
Oh,
let's
got
see.
it. Okay.
I think that's why I only have like a top picture of this guy.
Oh, got it.
So 1, 2, 3. Is this one right there too?
But like a beige stucco? They've all been stuccoed over.
Well, the one by the tennis court is a painted like T111.
Oh, but yeah, that's interesting. She's showing me the perspective on Google Earth.
Oh, good.
It's the only way you can see it.
It looks like it's lost all the kind of original
Oh.
style. Okay.
Let's see if I have any other photos for you. Oh, there we go.
And I'm asking because they're trying to decide like what is the architectural style now versus what it was, and or also realizing that it's its own eclectic style in the neighborhood now, kind of like this, and trying to make sense of what the final product will be. So what helped sort of guide you guys as you were deciding this kind of like final holistic style for it?
Well, I think fire safety was one big thing with the stucco. And I think that we're taking some of the neighborhood vibe of this thing was all wood, so I kind of like bringing some of that back to it. But yeah, and I think those 2 materials just look good together too. So kind of a soft, modern, contemporary, I guess.
And then right now they've got some of those triangle window configurations, but those will be removed, correct?
Yeah, all that goes away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Will you go back to your rendering that you had?
Yeah, sure.
And then will you talk through what you think the landscaping will be?
Something better than that's there. Yeah.
That yard is much larger than what is actually there, where those cactus, like those aloe-looking plants are.
Yeah.
And that's probably as far as the street goes. The street is right up on the front of that house, so there's
Right.
not much at all on the front of the house.
Yeah. There's a big hedge right now that
Right.
covers this whole thing. And there aren't any windows on that garage, but it seemed like it made it friendlier to the street to have some windows there.
And that large eyebrow, we'll call it, on the existing garage, from that height to your proposed new top of wood, what's that change?
We've come down with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we haven't gone up. But I can, for the next round, I can make sure we have that called out.
And then your site wall, so I'm looking at the street photo, but also this.
Yeah.
So in the street photo, the angled wall comes down and then the site wall is almost tucked a little bit behind. But here, it could be a rendering thing, but the site wall is kind of in front of it.
There's a little wall that captures the driveway there.
Right.
Yeah, that's really just going to get restuccoed.
Got it. Okay. And then where you've added the master suite, what was the design thought with the little jut out instead of that being flat there?
Yes.
Yes.
So there is a setback on this thing that's 35 feet now. So it has changed from, let me jump to the plan so you can see it. But it's basically to stay out of that setback and not have a mod for this. Let's see.
Because it's at an angle.
Yeah,
The
so you
setback.
see
Got
that,
it.
there's the setback right there. That pink is our ad.
Okay. And so you didn't want to hold the whole thing back a little bit?
Yeah, we did, and then I actually like having that little space in the in that master. It gives kind of a sitting room for that master. It actually was one of those like happy, constraints.
Will you go back to the perspective?
Yeah. Oh, you want to see the perspective?
All right, any other questions? We'll move to comments.
First of all, I want to thank you for taking on this project and not tearing it down. I knew Barry, and and it is outrageous, right? You use that that term for describing the architecture, and so my main comment is that while I appreciate everything that you're doing, I think it's I think it would be great if you could keep the most outrageous and most Barry Burkus part of this house, and that is that vertical truss wood element. I think that as soon as you take that out, it becomes a renovation to a house, but I think that you're taking out the heart of the style of this house. Just knowing, when Chair Lewis asked what the style of the house is, it's Barry Burkus. And there's really no other way to explain it. And the roof, while the 30-inch deep roof soffit, and while it's very, brutal, and I can understand why you want to take that out. To me, the most amazing part of the house is that the kind of vertical volume that when you're taking out that overlook up from the inside and filling in the floors, and then and removing that kind of vertical piece, that element that you're taking out, in my opinion, the heart of the design. But don't get me wrong, I appreciate you taking on this huge undertaking, and thank you for preserving the mass and the scale. But I would just hate for you to while doing that renovation, take away that spirit. Yeah.
Board Member Graffiti?
Okay, great. Thank you for providing all of the context on the project, the photo, and just looking around to see where it's visible. That is so helpful for us. And I love a lot of the changes you're making. I think that's a great point to consider with some of the historic features. This actually reminds me a bit of a house on Shoreline, kind of as you're coming up from the harbor on the mountainside, that has a very similar style. Even the roof line, and I think this was a new construction built like that. I don't think it was converted. I don't know. Maybe you can take inspiration from that. Oh, you did? Everyone here knows that, and I'm just, yeah, that's fine. So that's great. That makes sense. But yeah, I think it's a great project, huge improvement, and thank you for turning this around.
Okay, Board Member Mosley?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great move, just to keep the house that is so important to everybody in the community and making it better and not demoing it. I kind of have the same comments as Board Member Sherry. Like, when I look at this, the spirit of the house is kind of like, we can count the three items. One is that vertical mass that has the opening. The other that pops out is the angled wood on a little bit like a back elevation. If you go to the image of the house, yes, from the street view, three components. One is like that above the garage roof, which is of course it's thick, and the angled wood and that vertical piece. So there are the three things that define the character of this house, and I think the three of them are kind of blending to a new language. One of the things that, if you go to your new render now, one is the third story is becoming stucco with that stucco band, which is the first thing that from far away everybody will see. And I think maybe a study that reversed the way that you have now you have the wood and stucco together. What if it's reverse, the portions that you're putting wood? Because I think the massing that it's in the front, the garage, it has the tall hedge, which I don't know if you are keeping it or removing it. but there will be landscape. So a lot of like stucco on a lower level can be like behind a proposed landscape, but what goes on the upper stories, it's the most visible geometry from the street view. And I totally understand the fire concerns, and we have to like address that. And I think like then it goes to a lot of like later the project progress, like the choice of the wood will be really important to define, like, you know, how this house is not like a totally new build. And I think the other thing is the windows are now, and this preliminary render, it's just like really typical windows that you will see in any house. And I think this house has like a really special character that maybe a little bit study that can like make that special will help a lot. I think that's all my comments.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Richards?
Yeah, I would agree that there's a lot of character that's in the kind of directionality that wood siding takes, and how it, you know, enhances and builds the character of the house. I do think that probably the roofing material should be something non-metal, just for reflectivity purposes, whether that's an asphalt or a synthetic shake that's fire rated. But I think that trying to avoid any sort of reflective metal roof because of where the house is located would be appreciated.
Okay. I agree with the board. Yeah, I think, you know, when we look at this front elevation, was trying to figure out what it wants to be now. And I do think there's opportunity for keeping two big architectural elements from the existing, and then show the renovation as this kind of different stucco. And that may be helpful of the language of existing and new tied together that way, which could potentially mean that your tower element and maybe that diagonal wood stays in that area and the rest stucco. Regardless, I think we'll keep it more open-ended in the proposal, but trying to tie what is existing and what's remaining, because I don't think if you started from scratch, you'd end up with that geometry. And so being able to see enough of the pre-existing architectural detail that led to that geometry, I think would make sense of it in the neighborhood and at a distance. The other thing that I think is worth taking a look at, even though you meet the offset height requirements for the covered patio, one of the things that we have to make in our findings is that it goes with the topography, and it might even be that you provide different angles for us to look at, but right now it looks like everything else has these kind of angles, and then you have this long horizontal awning out the back. And I'm looking at the north elevation where you kind of see it go straight. And I don't know that we have another view of it. I'm curious the board's thoughts, and it might be that we just request some other view and study, but it might even mean that you pull back how much it's covering to kind of keep with these. Right now, part of the geometry is formed off this like steep site, which is why you get these tall kind of modern forms, and then you're introducing this new horizontal element. Any board's thoughts on that? Would you like to go to it's the page 12, the north elevation? Oh, on the other PDF.
Yeah, I think this
Oh,
has
sorry.
it too.
Okay,
No,
got
you're
it.
good. You're good.
So, north.
Is that the last page?
It's
go.
the first
There we go.
of. Oh, that's west.
So this is looking at it straight on.
That's looking at it straight on, and what I'm thinking is more where you see how far that roof structure up at the top.
that.
That one works as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see it a little bit more where you can see more of the slope continue on, but where it was proposed, if you zoom out a little bit, you can see the existing versus proposed. And the existing kind of continued this slope down. And the reason I was looking at the north is you've got the tapering dashed line of what your offset allowed is. But maybe that's...
Oh, I see what you mean.
So that technically you're meeting your offset. But I'm curious the board's thoughts.
Can I see the entire page? I don't have the laptop Charlie's house. I'm going to start bringing mine. It's really hard when I can't thumb through things. So that covered patio is a flat roof, right?
Proposed, correct.
Proposed a flat-ish.
Yeah, flat-ish.
And so your question is
Regardless of what was existing, you know, everything else kind of tapers down with the site. I like it on the actual back elevation. I think it looks fine, but thinking three-dimensionally of this long horizontal piece.
Again, it kind of goes back to how I was saying about that, some of these key design elements. And I only brought up the one, but there are a few. And that's one of them. Like the demolishing of that room is another key design element that accentuates that angled wall and how the massing is you know, you've kind of chipped away at every single detail that created this style, this Barry Burkus style, and so that is kind of the least of my concern because it's on the back of the house. But holistically, yes, I think it's a shame to lose that element. It would be great if you could keep that and then build the deck around it. But that to me is less important. And actually, I just wanted to point out that Board Member Moseley's comment about the reversing of the materiality is a good point, because I didn't want to touch on everything, but when you turn that wood in the background, that diagonal wood into a plaster element, then you've got the overhang that now you're rendering white. So does that mean it's white painted wood then, you know, next to the white stucco? So and somebody else, I think Chair Lewis brought up that if you design this house now, it would not be a massing that you would do in stucco with a wood fascia in front of it. And you're doing it as a reaction to how can you take the existing house and not destroy it and make it better. But I think the biggest point, and that everybody, what I'm hearing everybody say is, in so doing, everybody appreciates you doing that, but in doing that, don't lose the spirit of the architecture. And every one of us has brought that up in a different detail. That's my comment.
If you go to page 2 on the site photos and zoom into the south elevation photo, it's on the bottom left. And I think my point is kind of 2 points. One, I did like the existing geometry, but second is if you choose to get rid of it, making sure that what you're putting out there, one page up, I think.
One page up?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that view will also work there, but I was looking at the page above.
Okay.
There you go, that view. That off the back of the house, it starts to slope out. And so when you're putting some sort of covered anything, if it can continue that sloping, even though it's kind of steep, and that might mean that maybe your roof structure of an awning is taller, that it follow this slope rather than a flat awning.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity there to play with the different levels and how you walk out and experience that space through compression and expansion. And maybe that is a way to achieve kind of what you're talking about.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. I can make a motion. Does anyone else want to make a motion? Okay. I'll move to continue this project indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. The board appreciates the study of the neighborhood and the other Barry Burkus homes and the spirit of renovating the existing home. We encourage the applicant to study the details that make this home a Barry Burkus home and to try to identify a few key details to continue in the final design so that that style of architecture is still apparent at the end result. The applicant is to provide a landscape plan, provide colorized elevation and/or rendering of the front and rear of the building. As a study of which Barry Burkus details to keep, the board highly recommends keeping the triangle windows on the front elevation. And would recommend keeping this architectural element in wood or similar. As well as the angled wood in some fashion. Evaluate the wood versus stucco relationship. Provide window details. Consider asphalt or shaker roofing. And provide material pallet boards.
Is that your motion? I'll second the motion, but I do want to make sure that we just say consider the roofing, because I'm not opposed to metal roofing, because we wouldn't allow a shiny roof anyway.
Yeah.
And I won't say that a metal roof on this house is inappropriate. So that's, as long as the word is considered on there, then I'm fine with that.
Well, as the maker of the motion, I'm okay removing the roofing statement and just as a part of the material palette that it would be provided.
I know you haven't got there yet, but just as a thought.
Okay, I'll take the vote now. Board Member Mosley?
Yes.
Board Member Richards?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry?
Yes.
And Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, our full board meeting for February 24th has ended.
Thank you.